Thank you, Carolyn, and first of all, welcome to all of you to Sida and to the seminar on rural development through inclusive rural transformation. First of all, I'm very happy to see Paul Winter's team from, as you said, Carolyn, my old institution, IFAD, here with the new landmark report, the IFAD Rural Development Report. And many organizations do an annual report. IFAD does every 5 or so years, so it has a special significance. But that's for you, Paul, to talk about. I must also say that I'm very happy that we're organizing this together with SIANI. Where is Madeleine? There you are. I think SIANI has grown to be a very important and strong network. SIANI stands for the Swedish International Agricultural Network Initiative, and I've been had the privilege to be associated for some years with SIANI, and I think you've grown to do a great job. And also very great to be moderated by Carolyn Glynn at the SLU Global, another institution that is part of the network of organizations and institutions heavily engaged in rural development, in agriculture, and related matters. I'm very happy to see the State Secretary Ulrika Modir here to be part of the discussion afterwards. We have a really strong team with her and with our friend from Gothenburg, Gunnar Sjölin, and maybe also, we haven't met yet, but Ann-Charlotte Folkesson. It's great team for this discussion. So, without further ado, let me start by a few stark facts. I think it's a good backdrop for the discussion. Global poverty is falling, but rural areas consistently lag behind. Rural populations, still a majority in most developing countries. They are marginalized very often, politically, socially, and economically. In fact, small farms, family farms, support way more than 2 billion people globally. And actually, the bulk of those defined as poor, living on less than $1.90 a day, a bulk of those poor are rural. Agenda 2030, that Carolyn referred to, and that is a key framework for our work over the next 15 years, focuses on eradicating poverty by 2030 and focuses on leaving no one behind. A key focus must then be the rural poor, depending on agriculture and related services for their livelihoods. So to link the rural poor to the development process is key. This is key, otherwise we risk that they are too often migrants that fuel rapid urbanization. They should be seen as the potential and real producers and service providers in the rural space. So it's in this context that I'm very happy to see this year's Rural Development Report focusing on inclusive rural transformation. Key for this is increased productivity of agricultural production. We used to say, when I was working with this, that how can we move from 1 ton a hectare to 5 tons a hectare, or even 10 tons a hectare as the best, most productive small farms in Asia? This was when talking about Africa. So there is a tremendous gap between the most productive and the least productive of smallholder farms. The potential is great. And we know that the elements to achieve this are not rocket science. They're actually there. It's no secret what delivers. And without necessarily order of priority, let me mention a few. We have to have health and education as a base. There has to be access to water and other inputs. There has to be links to the market through investments in roads and modalities and incentives for traders. I remember once up in, which is now Boko Haram area in northern Nigeria, I went to a village, I spoke to the people there, I spoke to the women who were working the fields. I came by a four-wheel drive. I asked them, what are your priorities? What would you like to see happening? They said, first, a paved road, then a television for the village, then we need better health. And they went on. But I asked them, why do you need a paved road? You have one that takes you to the market. Well, you see, if we have a paved road, the traders will come to us. Now we have to go to the market. So the local context and the specifics are important. We need more access to information. And of course, through the mobile phone revolution, we've seen quite a lot happening when it comes to knowing the marketplace, knowing the prices. There has to be a system, and they can be very different systems, but there has to be a system of storage facilities to avoid food losses. And we know today that in many places, over a third of the harvest is being lost due to lack of storage opportunity. There has to be a secure access to land, so you know that you have the right, or at least a secure access to your land when you farm. There has to be at least a rudimentary financial system for credits and for savings and financial intermediation. For instance, in many villages all around the world, remittances come in from family members working abroad. If there's no financial institution, it's used immediately very often for consumption. There's very little mechanism for making these funds saved, accumulate for investment in a more productive farming system or other investments. We have to have dissemination through extension or other means of knowledge and the fruits of research. Not least when what we see today is that increased productivity must go hand in hand with adaptation to more and more severely felt effects of climate change. That's a reality for more and more farmers every year. But all these technical factors or economic factors, and there are more than I have mentioned, these are just some illustration of that, they must go hand in hand with social and political transformation. The rights of women, the all too often forgotten rights of indigenous people, the right to equality, the right to organize, the right to have your voice heard and counted. All of this is crucial. So rural transformation, which is key for reaching Agenda 2030 goals, is about social and economic transformation, going, as it were, hand in hand within the framework of environmental boundaries. All of this incorporating and integrating mitigation and in particular adaptation to climate change, as I mentioned. So rural transformation interacting with urban growth is key. I have seen in many places the virtuous circle where growing urban agglomerations and with the increased demand for food and other services make for a very strong economic development in the rural space surrounding the urban areas. But I have also seen that opportunity missed when increased demand for food has been serviced mostly by increased imports. So it's very important to see the link between the rural space and the urbanization. And if the urban growth does not use the potential of the rural areas. You will see more migration and more squalor in two rapidly growing urban centers. And the only opportunity for rural people will be migrating to the cities or abroad. So it's against this backdrop that it will be very exciting to hear the findings of the IFAD Rural Development Report and the reflections that will follow. Thank you very much.